What's going on, everybody? Project Rodrod here, and welcome to the Rodcast, the Monster Truck Fanatic podcast, your ultimate destination for all things monster trucks, whether you're a die-hard Monster Jam fan, a passionate follower of the sport, or just an avid player of the Monster Jam or Monster Truck related video games. This is the podcast for you. Once again, I am your host, Project Rodrod, and we are here for episode 2 of the podcast. Last episode was a quick introduction of who I am, what I do, and why I'm doing this. And in this episode, we're going to have a very special guest from the Steel Titans 2 series on my YouTube channel. He's going to be joining us today for some quick Q&A regarding the series and just his thoughts and opinions of Monster Jam and Monster Trucks as a whole. Just personal insights and whatnot. But before we get to there, I'm going to be talking about the results of the Steel Titans 2 series that I have on my YouTube channel, Project Rodrod. So if you haven't checked that out, please be sure to do so. We're on season 3, and every week I'm going to be doing a recap of events and what happened for my Steel Titans 2 series, as well as Monster Jam as a whole. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the Cardiff event this weekend on YouTube, the live event that they had, so I don't have any results for that. I did see a few things, but not enough to talk about, so we're going to talk about the results of Stop 2 of the Arena Series and Stop 1 of the Stadium Series, and then next week we're going to be covering the second stop of the Stadium Series, so we'll do a recap of that. So, to start off with the Arena Series, we're on Stop 2, which was in Portland, and of course, the crazy Monster Jam fan in Captain's Curse was your fastest qualifier with a 20.86. Doomsday was in second with a 21.01, so not the biggest gap, maybe about 0.2 seconds faster than Doomsday, but Captain's Curse still showing that amazing speed that he's been showing after getting that racing win in Denver. Back in Denver, though, I think it was Ice Cream Man who was the fastest qualifier. Captain's Curse was just behind him, so hey, finally got fastest qualifier, so congratulations to Crazy Monster Jam fan getting those 6 crucial points in this series. The next event for that stop, in Portland was High Jump, and once again, your reigning World Finals 2 High Jump champion, Toro Loco and Driftboy912 taking his second High Jump win of the season, which really is his third in a row if you look back all the way in World Finals 2 in Orlando when he got the High Jump championship. So he has a 3-win streak in high jump competition with a 39.4 in height in Portland. The second place competitor was Captain's Curse, Crazy Monster Jam fan, with 37.6, so almost a 2-foot difference between the second place truck, and he's just killing it right now in terms of high jump. Next competition was racing, where your fastest qualifier, and it was no secret at this point because this guy is killing it so far this season in the second stop, but your fastest qualifier, Captain's Curse, came and took his second racing win of the season. And I mean, I'm telling you, this guy is crazy fast and he's killing it on the track right now. Ice Cream Man was the runner-up after he was the fastest qualifier back in Stop 1. And looking back at Stop 1, I believe it was Ice Cream Man who was also the runner-up. Let me look back real quick. Yeah, Ice Cream Man was the runner-up in Stop 1 in Denver, so almost was able to knock out Captain's Curse and get some revenge there, but unfortunately, that truck is way too fast. Crazy Monster Jam fan coming on top with a win in Portland. Moving on to skills, again, another truck going back-to-back wins. After winning in Denver, Driftboy912 and Toro Loco taking a skills win with his signature move, the Bullbucker, which wowed the judges. Had an amazing sidewall save after the first attempt of the Bullbucker, so it was just a great attempt overall. So definitely a wow moment, definitely well deserved for Toro Loco and Driftboy912. Moving on to freestyle, April Summers and Gravedigger getting her first win of the season with an amazing freestyle run. Scored a 39, a 35 in regulation, a 4 in bonus to get a total score of a 39, and it was an amazing run, one of the best we've seen so far. The judges loved it. It was phenomenal. So a great way to cap off the event in Portland for April Summers getting her first win. The event champion ended up being Captain's Curse with 23 total points in the event. Gravedigger in second with 21. Toro Loco in third with 19. Now, moving on to the overall leaderboards for the Arena Series. After we left Portland, Captain's Curse getting those 5 bonus points for being the event champion. He is now in first place with 45 points. El Toro Loco in second place with 40. Ice Cream Man and Nick Morhees in third with 38. Gravedigger and April Summers in fourth with 34. Doomsday and MMJ Producer in fifth with 32. And last but not least, Monster Mud Husky and Nitro Studios in sixth with 31 points. So it's still early on in the competition. We're going to be hitting the midpoint or midway stop of the Arena Series here in a couple weeks. This week will be the second stop of the Stadium Series, so it'll be next week that we see what will happen and if these leaderboards change in any way. But let's go ahead and move on to the Stadium Series, which was the first stop of the season for the Stadium Series, and definitely was not what I was expecting, I guess, in terms of how everything turned out. So the fastest qualifier was a rookie of the season so far, his first time competing, and it's Daniel Murray and Bakugan Dragonoid coming out with a 20.24 in his first run. Monster Mutt Dalmatian and Omboji was just behind him with 20.26. Max D was the third fastest, Ethan Waters with 20.27, and then the fourth fastest was Crush Station and J Pace Racing with a 20.40. Northern Nightmare, who was your season 1 and 2 Stadium Series winner, was in fifth place in terms of qualifying. So kind of a slow start, but no worries, there's plenty of time for him to make up. And this event was in Arlington, my home state in Texas, so a great event overall. Moving on to high jump, Crush Station and J Pace Racing, which was my favorite to win the World Finals 2 high jump champion, took the high jump win in Arlington with a 49.9. Earthshaker and Angel Garcia was in second with a 49.2, so half a foot of a difference really between the wins here, but Crush Station taking the win overall and getting those 12 crucial points after getting a pretty good spot in qualifying. Moving on to racing in Arlington, it was a pretty easy track, although plenty of room to make errors, and we had a few errors, a few penalties, but nothing too crazy. But it was your fastest qualifier taking that racing win. Bakugan Dragonoid and Daniel Murray getting the next set of 12 crucial points. Max D and Ethan Waters was the runner-up. He is also your reigning World Finals 2 racing champion. So almost got his first racing win of the season, but we're going to have to wait and see what Stop 2 has in store this week when we visit there, which is going to be Detroit. So we're going to see if he can get that racing win in Detroit this week and see if he can defend his title. But moving on to the skills portion of the series, it was none other than Gas Monkey Garage, Ryan Hayward, the runner-up of the Arena Series Season 2, taking the skills win with a 9.971. I think what really sealed the deal was the second attempt, which was just an amazing sidewall save. It was phenomenal. Actually, one of my favorites we've seen so far. So great outing for Gas Monkey Garage and Ryan Hayward getting his first win of the season. And last but not least, it's going to be freestyle, where Alien Invasion and Cecily96 got her first win of the season, and I believe it's the first freestyle win she's gotten in a while. So a great way to start the season. And it was actually a tie between Alien Invasion and Northern Nightmare and Alex Stevens 27. They both scored a 36 with regulation and bonus. However, Alien Invasion had a 33 in regulation and a 3 in bonus. Northern Nightmare had a 32 in regulation and a 4 in bonus. And the tiebreaker is whoever has the highest regulation score is the winner in the tiebreaker. So that, of course, was Alien Invasion. So a huge win for her. And after it was all said and done, it was Bakugan Dragonoid and Daniel Murray getting the event champion here in Arlington, of course, after getting qualifying and racing, as well as scoring pretty high in the other competitions. 45 total points at the end of it all. Soldier Fortune and Crush Station tied for second with 40. Just behind Bakugan Dragonoid. So at the end of it, once it was all said and done, the leaderboards for the Stadium Series has Bakugan Dragonoid on top with 50 points after getting those 5 bonus points for being the event champion. Soldier Fortune and Crush Station tied for second with 40. Dalmatian and Max D tied for fourth with 39. Gas Monkey Garage in fifth with 35. A tie for sixth between Dragon and Northern Nightmare with 31. Earthshaker in 9th with 30, Alien Invasion in 10th with 29, Blue Thunder in 11th with 21, and Megalodon in 12th place with 19. So a little confusing to follow, but if you look at the leaderboards in those videos, you'll kind of see how it all works out. But definitely not the outing Northern Nightmare wanted in Alex Stevens 27, especially after being the back-to-back Stadium Series champion. He's currently in a bad spot, so hopefully it turns around for him and he can have a better season moving forward. Again, Detroit is the second stop of the Stadium Series, and we're going to see how that goes this week on YouTube as qualifying begins today at 4 p.m. Central Time. So that's going to be it for the events of the Steel Titans 2 series on YouTube. Again, be sure to check that out if you haven't already. We're on season 3 this week, starting today, July 8th, Monday, July 8th at 4 p.m. Central. We're going to see qualifying, high jump on Tuesday, racing on Wednesday, skills on Thursday, and freestyle on Friday. So Detroit's going to be a great one to see. It's a kind of a figure 8 racing style with 2 different lanes. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But let's go ahead and before we move on to our special guest of the day from the Arena series, so I'll just go ahead and let that out. I'm sure you've already seen it from the title. It's none other than Driftboy912, one of the originals from Season 1, the driver of El Toro Loco for Season 1, 2, and 3, and he's now in the Arena Series tearing it up. But he is the special guest for today. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly shout out my partner in this, my sponsor, whatever you want to call him. It's W Energy. And again, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me talk about it, but I promise you guys, I wouldn't promote it if it wasn't good, and W is amazing. Beach and Peach is my personal favorite. It's mango with peach. It's an amazing mixture. It's great. I'm actually on it right now, drinking it right now, and I'm so totally energized. And it doesn't give you a headache. It doesn't make you feel jittery or shaky or nothing. It's just the focus that it gives you is amazing. And I mean, just want to put it out there. Use code Project Rod to get 10% off of your W Energy order. And I promise you guys, just give it a shot. Even if it's just a sampler, you get a shaker cup with 3 of the energy packets and 2 of the hydro packets, all different flavors. So you can try different ones. That's how I ended up trying Beach and Peach and Galaxy Grenade, and I ended up buying a tub of each just because they were so good. Galaxy Grenade right there tied for my top favorite flavor, but Beach and Peach just has the best right now. So please be sure to check it out. Please be sure to use code Project Rod. A little portion of that purchase ends up coming back to me, which helps out tremendously, helps out the channel. So I'd really appreciate it, you guys. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started with our special guest. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. All right. So for episode 2, we have a special guest. He is from the original season 1, 2, and 3. The driver of the bull, the current reigning World Finals 2 high jump champion, and the guy who gave me the idea to finally be able to incorporate clips from everybody after what I mentioned in my previous episode. It was kind of just to choose a truck, hope for the best, and everything was done behind the scenes. But it's none other than Driftboy912, also known as Drift, joining us here today. So Drift, how are you doing today?
I am good. How are you doing?
Good, man. It's good to finally do this. I know, we had some scheduling issues last week, and it's been kind of tough for me to find some time. So it's good to be able to finally get on the same page and be able to get on together and get this going. So we'll go ahead and jump right in to the series, where the series is currently and how you feel about the series or where you are. And then we'll jump into some general questions about Monster Jam and whatnot. So currently, as of now, we've had Stop 2 happen, which was in Portland. And as of Portland, you are currently in second place, right behind Captain's Curse, just shy 5 points, given that he was the event champion in Portland. So before that, y'all were tied. So how do you feel about your current position?
I'm really excited for it. I knew from the beginning of this season that I was going to show up and show out and show people that you don't mess with the bull in a china shop. I kind of did a little worse last season in the Stadium Series, so I made a promise to me and my team that I would show up and show people that you don't mess with the bull.
Absolutely, and you've been showing it. I mean, you've been on a hot streak, to say the least. And looking back at season 1 and season 2, looking back at those records, season 1 you ended in 7th with 151 points. But that was a pretty good season overall for you. You had 2 skills wins overall, 1 in Glendale, 1 in San Diego, and you were second highest, I believe, or third highest amongst all the competitors going to World Finals in average skills score, which was a 9.117. Max D and Ethan Waters was in second, and Alien Invasion and Cecily 96, who was eventually the skills champion or skills World Finals champion in World Finals 1. She was the one with the highest with a 9.153, but still, you had a great season in terms of skills. Racing was a little iffy. And freestyle, your average height was 34, which wasn't too bad. That was tied for third. But looking back at those, and let me see, looking at season 2 now, you were in 8th with 200 points. That's when we incorporated high jumps, so more opportunities to get points compared to season 1. But that season, you only had 1 win in Toronto in terms of skills. That was kind of it. So again, like you mentioned, it was a little slower. Still an overall a great season. You came out with a high jump win in Orlando in World Finals 2 with 50.8 feet, almost 3 feet higher than Monster Dalmatian and April Summers, who was right behind you in second place, which now she's actually a competitor in the Arena Series with you as the both of you were moved down to the Arena Series. So do you feel like April might be somewhat of a rival to you, someone to look out for, or who do you think right now is your toughest competitor as we move in to the midpoint of the series, which is going to be Greensboro, the third stop?
I would have to say my toughest competitors right now would have to be Captain's Curse and Ice Cream Man. Every time I turn around, they always have a step ahead of me. And then when we come to high jumper skills, I just blow them away. And I know Captain's Curse, he's fast during racing and qualifying and all that, and I can sneak up right there on him. But lately we've been having shock troubles with the truck. We've been turning the truck over, but I try my hardest, and I just want to congratulate April Summers on last year. I didn't mean to steal her move from her, but I figured since there was a little weakness in it, I just had to try it my best, and I was able to succeed with it. So I just try to stick it out. But Ice Cream Man and Captain's Curse have to be my number one competitors right now, especially since we're right there neck and neck almost. We have our good times, we have our bad times after these last 2 stops, and I just can't wait to see who pulls it out at the end of the season between us 3.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see, given that it's pretty close. I mean, again, Captain's Curse just 5 points ahead of you, and that's because he was the event champion in Portland. Ice Cream Man just barely took it away from you in Denver. I believe he had 22 points and you had 21 at the end of the event in Denver, so you almost had it, but he just barely inched forward ahead of you and took those 5 points. But he's currently in third with 38 points, so just two points shy of tying with you. April Summers in fourth with 34 points, but I mean, she's not too far, and she seems to be heating up. She got her first competition win in Portland with an amazing freestyle, mind you. It was a great run, and a lot of the judges were really impressed. They really enjoyed it. Hoping to see what else she has in store for the rest of the season. I know she's hungry, given that season 1, she was in second place just behind Northern Nightmare, and then, or actually she was in third in season 1, right behind Northern Nightmare in season 1. And season 2, she ended up in a tie for second with Maxine Ethan Waters, again losing to Northern Nightmare. So that's been her biggest hurdle, and she's said it time and time again that he was a tough guy. And going back to stealing her move, I'm guessing you're referring to what you now call the bullbucker. That's something that she was doing in season 1 and 2. So seems like you've really mastered it. And I know she had a lot of trouble. So I mean, was it just a lot of practice? Was there a lot of thought put into it, or did you just go for it and hoped for the best?
When I first done it, I was hoping for the best. I didn't want to roll the truck over to there and make a fool of myself. And whenever I got it the stick, all during the off season, I just nonstop practice, and finally made it where I could do good in it. And I showed up and showed out last stop, and figured since I have it down, might as well claim it as the bullbucker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did share that on my socials as well, kind of spreading it out to the community that this was now your signature move. And I haven't really heard anything from April. I don't think you haven't either about that, but she's kind of done her own thing as well. And you're going to be seeing here in, I believe Greensboro, as I mentioned. Greensboro is the next stop, and you're going to be able to see that, given that you're a Patreon. You're going to be able to see that starting Monday, the beginning of that event, and you're going to see that she now dubbed her own signature move now, kind of strayed away from that move and kind of made her own now. So that's going to be exciting to see. But it was Portland, when I believe it was your first attempt, when you performed the move, and then you ended up getting into a sidewall save, which was really impressive. And I think that's what really sealed the deal. And speaking of hot streaks, we were talking about Captain's Curse, and how he's just on an amazing streak in terms of racing. He's currently 2-0 and has a perfect racing record this season. So he's a fast guy. That's what's kind of keeping him on top right now, is his speed. But going back to streaks, you currently have 2 wins in high jump and 2 wins in skills. So if you go all the way back to World Finals, you currently have a winning streak of 3 high jump wins in a row. So how confident do you feel going into Greensboro that you're going to take your 4th in a row, counting Orlando, and your 3rd skills in a row, counting the first 2 stops of the Arena Series?
Confident as much as I can be. I'm hoping that we can come out with another win, and I'm also hoping that we can try to come out with another skills, or at least be lucky enough and bite the horn and try to get us a racing win finally.
Yeah, and Greensboro is a very tough track. Going back to season 2 is when we first went to Greensboro, and I don't know if you recall Arena Series. I'm sure you focused more on Stadium Series then, because that's the series you were in, but Morales TCS was behind the wheel of Whiplash that season, and in qualifying she had 2 horrible crashes going into those turns. It's kind of a figure 8 with that jump in the middle, so it's really tricky, the air time, the landing, and all that. If you don't do it right, you're going to be on your lid, and it just ruins your whole run. And she had 2 horrible crashes. She didn't even get a single time in qualifying because she crashed both times right before the finish line and just straight to the barrier. Does that have do you have any concerns with that? Anything? Because like I said, it's going to be a tough track, and it was tricky last season. She wasn't the only truck to roll over or have kind of any negative outcome come from it. So is that kind of worrisome in any way, or like you said, you're just gonna see what happens and roll the dice and hope for the best?
There's a little worries coming into Greensboro, especially since it's the figure 8 and it has tight corners, and plus we have the over-under to deal with. And I know there's going to be a lot of us that's going to be messing up on it, especially some of us new drivers in the Arena Series, and some of us that just joined the series that's going to have troubles with it. But I know that we're going to try to put a good show on for the Greensboro fans and try our best to sit there and make everybody excited and get everybody on their feet.
So after some tough technical difficulties, we're back and we're good to go. So back where we left off, I was talking about Greensboro and the track, the difficulty with the over-under, but really when it comes to skills and freestyle, the difficulty in coming up with how to keep it entertaining, how to keep the momentum going, and really how it all comes down to creativity. So what are your thoughts on that with the track itself, when it's just, it's the over-under, so it's just 2 big jumps with the car stacks in the middle? Do you have any concerns with how freestyle and skills are going to go, since it really all just comes down to creativity?
I mainly question freestyle. I know me personally, I look at it as more of a hang time and a really more action-packed track. So I have a feeling there's going to be errors and moments and probably a lot of saves due to the big air. But when it comes to everything else, it feels like it's going to be a very fun track for everybody.
I agree with you. It's going to be a hang time track. It's going to be there's not going to be much action going, given that the jumps are so steep, and like I said, there's only really 2. There's multiple angles you can hit it in, but it's just 2 big jumps. It's kind of the same thing any which way you look at it. So I'm sure that's definitely going to play a big part. But it is the midpoint of the season. Usually this is when you want to get hot to keep that momentum going to make it to the end. But I guess before we get to the end, at least of talking about the series, before we move on to just some other general questions, if it ends up not working out in your favor and you don't get the top spot, who do you think deserves to be the winner, or to deserves to be in first place come the last stop of the season?
My 2 votes would have to go with April Summers or Captain's Curse. I know April Summers has been sitting there egging and waiting for that top spot, and I know just by seeing their runs and all that they have it within them, and so they're my number 1 pick for that top spot. And then with Captain's Curse, knowing that they're fast and that they can handle it, they're my second pick. But I'm mainly rooting for April Summers to try to get that top spot, but she has to go through me first.
No, and I have to agree with you. April, again, she's been a great competitor. She's been a good sport. She's been chasing the tails of Northern Nightmare for the past 2 seasons. So the Arena Series was definitely a change in pace, and it was a little slow in the beginning, but she's slowly catching up and getting where she needs to be. So definitely a good pick. A surprising pick for me was Captain's Curse. He's really just kind of come out of nowhere and just really blown up. So I'm excited to see what he's capable of doing, and if he were to make it to the World Finals, he might be a top contender, or at least a top favorite for me in terms of being the racing champion this season. But as I've said about you, you've had a great season so far, an amazing season, really. Again, 2 high jump wins this season, 2 skills wins, and we're going into the midpoint of the season. So it's going to be really exciting to see what the outcome is going to be. And I guess before we move on from the series, is there anything else you'd like to cover or say before we move on?
Just hoping that we get that spot to go into World Finals again, and hopefully bring back another high jump championship, and hopefully try to aim for a skills championship. Those are my big 2 plans for this season, and I wish everybody the best of luck with it in the season. And I can't wait people go out and try doing crazy stuff and try to find their own little secret moves and be able to
Seems like everybody's kind of getting into their the area that they need to be in their comfort zone so far. And World Finals are going to be in Oakland, if I'm not mistaken, this season. So it was the final stop of season 1, and it was a crazy one. I know racing was pretty wild with those humps in between the tracks. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And the high jump this season is the center jump in Oakland, and it's a massive one. So I'm sure we're going to see some huge air. So I'm sure you're ready to defend your title, as well as hopefully get a new one in skills, because there's going to be plenty of obstacles and plenty of opportunities to to perform some awesome skills and some great memorable wow moments. So again, great season so far. I'm excited to see what the rest of the season brings. Stop 3 was going to be on Patreon come Monday, July 8th. We're going to see qualifying, and then the rest throughout the week, and then everybody else on YouTube is going to see Stadium Series Stop 2. So really exciting stuff going. Exciting to see what the future brings. But let's go ahead and move on away from the series and come back to more of a personal side of questions, at least for you, I guess, before we come to a conclusion of this. But if you can remember that far, because I know it's hard for me to remember, but what was it that drew you to Monster Jam, or just monster trucks in general? What was really the key moment, or just an event that made you think this is it, this is what I'm gonna want to be a fan of and follow for the rest of my life?
So when I was growing up, my dad used to race dirt track cars, and there was a little show once or twice throughout the year that would come to the track, and we would always go. And I would always go and talk to two of the amazing drivers, and I hardly see them these days, but they don't. And it's Lucas Oil Equalizer and the old Ghost Rider truck. And I grew up sitting there watching them. I used to sit there and wish that I can be like one of them. And it just got to the point where some of the big names like Jim Creed and all them, they came out to the local tracks and started doing shows like that. And just sitting there watching all that come through, it put a spark in me that, hey, this is pretty cool. It's not just about having fun with friends. There's more stuff out here in the world that brings joy. And just watching the trucks go over jumps and crushing cars and doing donuts and doing just crazy stuff, it just brought joy into me. And seeing what people can do with the trucks and how they look and all that. Especially stood out to me is when I was little, I used to go back and watch the old Tom Mintz and Dennis Anderson rivalry when it first happened, when Tom Mintz was in Bulldozer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of sparked me to start liking El Toro Loco, was because of Tom Mintz being in Bulldozer and me seeing the evolutions of Bulldozer. Because at one point, El Toro Loco wouldn't be El Toro Loco without Bulldozer.
For sure. And I feel like Bulldozer is a truck that is often, I guess, overshadowed by El Toro Loco, but definitely a fan favorite that a lot of people would like to see a return of.
One truck that I would love to see a return of, and I know it's never going to happen, is Western Renegade. I used to love that truck.
It was like a Hummer body, right?
They had a Hummer body. They had an F-150 body. That truck all around was just amazing. The way they had it, it was part of the Gunslinger crew. And
Gotcha.
Just, I used to have a lot of the die cast of them, and when growing up, that's all I would do. I would go out in the yard and make my own little jumps and
absolutely. That was my favorite thing growing up.
And sit there and play with them, and then after a while, I stopped watching it after the passing of the driver of Gunslinger. And when my nephew was born, I brought out the diecast trucks, and he brought me back into it. And ever since then, I've sat here and watched them and watched, and seeing how big Monster Jam has grew from just being hardly on TV to now it's one of the biggest competition sports out there, and it's right there almost neck to neck with NASCAR and all that stuff.
It's going worldwide, and
and
more merch everywhere you go. You see it more often, and in clothing and housewares and stuff for kids, and backpacks and Valentine's Day cards. I mean, it's really grown from its early days.
Oh yeah, like I just explained to my fiance the other day that when we have a child, that's one thing that I would love to see my child be a part of, is having experience and having the love for monster trucks the way I do and all, because these days you don't really see a lot of little kids besides ones that grew up around them really liking it. And I remember back when I was in school, I was the only kid in school that knew about monster trucks, that really cared about them the way I do.
For sure. I've been there.
And I grew up in a very small town. So the only thing we had to a monster truck was 2 hours away, and that was at the racetrack every 3-4 months. So, and then finally I sat down with a couple of friends of mine and was like, hey, y'all should come out and watch this with me. And so throughout my whole elementary, middle school years, I would have my friend group that we would just nonstop talk about monster trucks and what was new and what's the cool stunts that we seen, or if we watched it over the weekend and stuff like that. At one point, I saved up enough money to go to World Finals 19, and I ended up going into the hospital, so I ended up having to watch it on my phone. But just do anything to be able to be a part of it. And it got to the point where I spent all my savings from middle school and bought me a console to play the Path to Destruction game.
That one's a great one.
It got to the point where at one point I was begging my parents to let me build my own truck and for me to get my name out there, and I never hopped to it. And to this day I still wish that I can go out to the shop and a lot of metal and build my own chassis and hope until I make it to the big league, so I can go up against Ryan Anderson and Dennis and Adam Anderson and Christian Anderson, and throughout all Monster Jam, all you would hear is Anderson and Mintz, and it's very sad to hear that Tom Mintz is retiring and all that after this season.
Oh
But
yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate to see him in Houston, and I was so excited that he came down. And I mean, I think it was the week or two after that he had that accident, and then after that he was done. So I mean, I was super happy and very fortunate that I was able to see him. Not everybody got to, so that's the unfortunate part of it. Not everyone was able to experience him in his last year, and I'm sure he had tons in store for us. And to see him in one last World Finals, I mean, I'm 100% positive that he would have came out with one last championship, but unfortunately, it wasn't in the cards for him, and it's very, very, very unfortunate to see that happen to him.
if it wasn't for him and Dennis Anderson, then the sport wouldn't be to where it is now.
No, for sure. And I was just watching the other day on YouTube. I saw that the Monster Jam podcast. I forget the host's name every single time. I forget his name, but he sat down with Tom and Dennis both, and they were both talking, about their rivalry and the past and how Monster Jam has grown over the years. And they brought up on how Dennis was basically the guy to bring popularity to the sport. He was pretty much the one to get it really going, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the one that pretty much invented freestyle, when he would just go out there and just kind of go at it at the track, and then it eventually turned into a competition from an encore part of the show to an actual competition. So I mean, they really paved the way, and they really made it what it is. And I was I was very disappointed and very upset, when Dennis got hurt and saw that he was done. I mean, that was just a huge slap in the face, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it was just, it sucked. It really did suck. And I miss, I watch Dennis's old freestyle runs, and, from back in the day, and, early mid 2000s. I mean, they were phenomenal. And what he brought to the track and the energy he brought, and just the way he could control the fans, I mean, it was amazing. And Brian's a great driver, Adam's a great driver, Weston's coming up as well, and you have all these other drivers coming up and doing great things. Bryce is great. Of course, I can't remember any other names at the moment, but I mean, there's tons of names out there that are just doing amazing things and bringing more light, I guess, to the sport. But I don't think anything will ever compare to Dennis and Tom for the amazing things they did on and off the track. And Tom doing all of his stunts and always going for those records, and the front flip and the double back flip, and just the regular single back flip. And I mean, it's crazy that without them, I don't think Monster Jam would be where it is now. So it's sad to see that the final one of two is finally out of the sport. But I feel like the sport was left in good hands with all of the Andersons, as well as all of the drivers that Tom trained and continues to train and mentor. I feel like they left it in really good hands, and I'm really excited to see what's going to come of the sport.
Oh, so am I. I can't wait to see what Monster Jam has coming for us, and I can't wait to see if they bring out new trucks and have new drivers in the spotlight, or they decide to bring back old trucks and have new drivers fill in it, especially with when they brought back Northern Nightmare. That was one thing that shocked
me. That was so exciting when I saw that, because I love Northern Nightmare, and I say that here, hopefully nobody kind of ties that to how the Steel Titan series has gone, because that has nothing to do with it. I love Northern Nightmare, but none of that was ever planned. Everything was just pure luck, I guess, if you will, when it came to Northern Nightmare winning season 1 and 2 of the Stadium series. But Northern Nightmare was one of my favorites, but only because it used to be Nitro Circus, which used to be Pastrana 199, and I loved seeing that truck back in the day. So it just it went from 199 to Nitro Circus to Northern Nightmare, all because it was basically the same truck. And I think Cam McQueen was in Nitro Circus and then went to Northern Nightmare. So I don't know, I love the body style, I love the paint scheme, and just from the original 199, that's where my fandom carried. But it was super exciting to see that Northern Nightmare came back for that one show, and I really hope that they continue to bring him back for future shows, as well as I did see Brutus was brought back as well. So hopefully he's here to stay.
One truck that I'm hoping that they would bring back, especially to Monster Jam, and a lot of people foreshadow it and kind of look down on it, is Metal Militia. And that truck,
oh my God, yes.
The way that they have the colors and the way that they would do like the 4th of July paint scheme on it and the Halloween stuff for it, just it kind of sparked it to me, because you would have Gravedigger with his natural spooky paint job, and then you would see a bright red and black and gray truck come out and just hammer down, and then they would come out with the blue version of it, and everybody looks over the blue version and they think about, oh well, Brian Deegan used to drive it and all, and then they try bringing NASCAR into it with his daughter driving and the Xfinity series, and I look at it from the wow moments, the paint jobs, just the natural aspect of the truck, the way the truck looked and all. And to me, whenever I seen Northern Nightmare and Metal Militia side by side, they somewhat looked identical just by where their color schemes were. And just, I've always thought of myself as a metalhead, and it's just, I've always liked that truck because it was on the crazy side. And
no, for sure, I'm right there with you. Metal Militia was my personal favorite for the longest time, and I even got that skull with like kind of the circle around it. I had that sticker on like 2 of my trucks growing up, just because I loved it. It was my favorite. Todd LeDuc killed it in that truck, and it was sad to see it go. But I mean, if that truck were to ever come back, it would be the best. It would be a dream come true. Even to just have it in a video game at this point, just give us something related to that truck, because it was just great. So definitely one I'd love to see come back. That and Monster Energy for sure. With Damon behind the wheel, Todd behind the wheel, Cody, I mean, he was killing it as well. I think now he's in Dragon, but when he was in Monster, man, he was a different breed when he was driving that Monster Energy truck. So definitely would love to see those trucks and partnerships come back in the future.
Oh yeah, and Todd in Monster and Metal Militia, that's when he was at his point, and
that was peak Todd LeDuc right there.
Oh yeah, and just he's still at his peak, but I've seen that he's kind of calmed down from what he used to be. So has Cody, but
yeah, I was gonna say Cody too. He's kind of slowed down a bit.
I have a feeling that this coming up season is when they're going to actually show their colors and show all the other competitors that, like, hey, I'm here. Just because I'm in a different truck doesn't mean that I can't drive my butt off.
Yeah, and I was kind of shocked to see that Todd was in Megalodon. I didn't know that was a thing, because I stepped away from the sport for a little bit, so I was kind of confused as to where everything left off. But I was kind of shocked to see him in Megalodon, and I listened to the podcast between him and I forget his name again, but the main host of Monster Jam now. I think his name is Scott Jordan, I believe. Scott Jordan. They had an interview or a podcast with Todd on there, and he was talking about he was going through his divorce and a lot of personal issues. So I'm sure that had a lot to do with how he was able to perform on the track and just his driving style in general, because it's a mental thing. If you're not fully in it and you got other things going on, it's gonna bog you down a bit. So completely understandable, but he seems to be in a better place now. He seems to be a lot happier, so hopefully that's the case, and we do see him wake up a bit. But I even saw in the award ceremony for World Finals this year that I think it was Bryce Kenny that kept teasing him and saying, bring old Todd LeDuc back, bring that old crazy Todd back. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully he does wake up a bit and he can have a better season next season. And I'd love to see, Metal Militia and Monster Energy Todd LeDuc, as well as Cody, because I know he was one of the fastest guys on the track when it came to World Finals. And I mean, he was one of my favorites to win racing at some point as well. Unfortunately, he just didn't make it that far in all the events. And it doesn't have to be Monster Jam; it could be any monster truck show. But what would you say would be was your most memorable experience when you attended that event? Be it Monster Jam or some kind of independent show?
I would have to say when Jim Creedon brought out his new chassis for Bounty Hunter, and they were at the local track here, and I think it was like his second or third show with the new chassis, and he came out and kind of warned everybody and teased everybody, and finally, next thing we know, he just goes and does this massive backflip, and the way just the truck landed, it was just so amazing. And especially seeing the way how he has that truck where it's not really top heavy, it's more of center gravity, and plus it being a new look to monster trucks in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I met Jim before, Jim and Don at a pit party. I finally got to meet them. I got their autographs and everything. I have pictures with them. So, really a great guy. And, he was chasing that racing championship forever in World Finals. And he was finally able to get it when I think it was Bari Musauer who red lit at the start line. So, he was finally able to get it after almost 20 years. But definitely one hell of a driver. Definitely have some memorable moments of him that I can think of. And I remember growing up too. I had as embarrassing as it may sound, I had one of the biggest crushes on Dawn Cretin growing up. So it was definitely somewhat of a dream come true meeting her finally at a pit party. So, but definitely a good team. Definitely elite drivers. I remember Dawn, and I forget what World Finals it was, but when she cleared that triple and got that save, and I was really upset that she didn't win that year. To continue on this topic. At the end of the day, who do you think, or not who do you think, but what driver would you say, and it could be two different, it could be a different truck and a different driver, or one in the same, but what truck and driver would you say is your all-time favorite?
So for my favorite truck, for my all-time favorite, that it has to be hands down El Toro Loco. And for my favorite driver of all time, it has to be Scott Bluetow.
And he was the driver of Hot Wheels, right? And then he was in El Toro Loco Ice.
Yes.
Yeah. No, he was pretty good too. I'm surprised. I know he had some heated moments in World Finals when he felt like they kind of cheated him a little bit in the scores. And I feel like that's kind of a conversation for another day.
I gotta say, one of the drivers, and I forget his name off the top of my head. He was one of my favorites growing up, and he was just one of the wild side drivers, and just he's the one that brought the Cadillac body to Monster Jam. And I think it was Terry Bradshaw, I want to say his name was, but he brought out the Escalade, and then he painted it.
He was in an Escalade, and then he made the Mohawk Warrior.
He's the original
Mohawk
driver.
Oh my goodness, what's George Belhan?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a Blue Thunder driver at some point too.
That was one of the trucks that stood out to me, was when he used to have the Escalade. The way he had the rims that would spin on it, just...
Oh my god, yeah. And I remember an Escalade was one of my first customs that I tried to make out of the die-cast. I took a bounty hunter, an extra bounty hunter that I had because I had duplicates, and I just got some black spray paint and just went to town. And it looked horrible, and I'm sure if I were to go look in my tote full of my old die-cast trucks, I'm pretty positive I can pull that up. And if I ever do, I'll be sure to post a picture of it on Instagram and everywhere else. But yeah, I remember when I first saw that, and I saw the spinners and everything, and the theme song, I think it was like Cadillac Pimpin' or something, I forget. But that was definitely a great truck, and I know one of my favorites too was whenever he brought out that white paint scheme in one of the World Finals. Just when I thought that truck couldn't look any better, he puts white paint on it, and it was just amazing. So, but let's see if you could have if you could have just like a show, like a dream show, dream scenario where you could have like a dream lineup or a dream matchup. I guess who would be your pick? Let's say, I don't know, an all in all, going through the entire history, current drivers and old drivers. If you could have one World Finals championship race between two drivers, who would be your pick?
I would have to, for my pick, it would be and I know the track and all that. It would have to be at Sandboy Stadium for the World Finals 12 layout, and it would have to be Ryan and Taz with Adam and Gravedigger the Legend.
You said Ryan and Taz?
Yes.
And Adam and the Legend. That brother against brother in a championship round. Oh man, that would be bragging rights for years.
That would be the battle for centuries.
And then if you could pick, let's say 3 trucks. Let's say 5 trucks. Top 5 trucks. Trucks and drivers of any timeline, retired or current, for one last, World Finals freestyle run. It was between 5 drivers. Who would you want those 5 drivers to be that would duke it out for a freestyle championship?
So my first driver would have to be Lope Sosa and El Toro Loco. My second driver would have to be Dennis Anderson and the original Gravedigger, when he had the red pickup on one of the new chassis.
Oh yeah.
My third driver would have to be Tom Meents whenever he did the Max D and the Maximum Destruction body. My fourth driver would have to be Lindsey Wink when he drove Blue Thunder. And then Todd LeDuc with Metal Militia.
Now, yeah, that's a good lineup. Especially, I forget about Lindsey Wink. I forget how. I mean, he was a great driver, especially not only in Blue Thunder, but also in Lucas Oil Crusader. That was one of my favorites as well. When they were running that truck. So definitely can't forget about Lindsey. Definitely and what track would you choose if you could choose any World Final track?
I would have to stick with Sandboy.
Sandboy.
Yeah. I've always loved it, especially with Thunder Alley. It was.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so, and every time I think about it, and every time they announce a new venue for World Finals, I'm like, man, why did they have to get rid of Sam Boyd? And I know it was some kind of like the football team was moving or something that was there, and they were going to use it. I don't know the technicalities, but it's just not that it breaks my heart, but it's just so disappointing because I've never been to a World Finals event, and there was one that I almost went to, and I believe it was World Finals 17. Was the one that I almost went to, but ended up not being able to. I backed out, and I do want to go to the one in, I believe it's going to be in Utah next year, in Salt Lake City, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I do want to try to go to that one next year, but I mean, if nothing's gonna beat all the World Finals in Sam Boyd Stadium. If they could do like one more show there before they like officially retire the entire building, I think they would for sure have a sellout crowd, and it would have to be the best World Finals of all time if they went there one more time. So I highly doubt it, but if anybody from Feld or Monster Jam is listening to this, make it happen, because that is definitely something we would all love to see, and we would all be willing to spend whatever it takes to get there. I think that's pretty much it for now, Drift. I'm sure we can get you on sometime in the future. I definitely do appreciate you being here and being a part of it. I know we've had some scheduling conflicts and some technical difficulties, but we made it. We're here, and it's been fun. It's been entertaining, and it's been a pretty good conversation. So, I mean, anything you want to add or anything else you'd like to say?
Just hoping that after this whole conversation, that season 4 we might be able to see Sam Boyd Stadium for the finals. And I just want to wish everybody, my competitors and all that, good luck with the rest of the season, and hopefully we see some new champions in the World Finals, or people that are going to defend their titles. And for everybody that watches and likes what they watch and supports everybody and supports you by doing this, just keep watching, like, and all that. Because if it wasn't for y'all, then all this wouldn't be happening. The stuff, or us having fans and all that, is what encourages this stuff to happen. And you don't even have to be a Monster Jam fan just to like what people do with the series or with anything. We just try to show that there is fun out there, and just knowing that y'all like what we do and y'all like watching it, I know it puts a smile on my face at the end of the day to see that we have people that enjoy the stuff that we like, and that there's people out there that not really the courage, but at the end of the day, they have the smile on their face when they see crazy moves like the bullbucker, or they see the fun saves and all that happens throughout the series. And no matter if it's in the arena series or stadium series.
No, for sure. Like you said, I mean, without everybody's support and everybody watching and liking and commenting, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this. It's definitely a fun experience, and I'm glad that I came back to doing YouTube again after taking a really long break, and everybody's support has been fantastic, and I've met a lot of great people, so it's been a fun journey. But again, Drift, I appreciate your time, man. It's been fun, it's been real, and we hope to see you in another one, man.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that on today's episode. I know it was a longer one than usual. We had a really good conversation between me and Drift, or also Driftboy912. He was a great host, or excuse me, a great guest, and really was the one that pushed me to do the podcast, because I was teasing it for so long, and he just finally said, hey, I'll be a guest. So it just got my gears going and made me want to go ahead and get started. And I've been having a great time so far. So huge shout out to him. He's also the one that helped me get everybody involved more in the Steel Titans 2 series, since he kind of gave me ideas on how to have everyone submit and be more involved, and it's just been a great time. So huge shout out to him. He's been a great help in the series and the podcast and just everything as a whole. So thank you guys, thank you so much to Drift for all the help and for being a part of this. And if you'd like to be in the next episode, let me know. Comment down below, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. I think Spotify has a Q&A section. And speaking of the Q&A, I almost completely forgot, so I do apologize. In my first episode, I did mention if you wanted to add a question for the common question of the day, so I can have that as a segment as well at the end of the video, so I can answer your question. And if I don't answer it, don't worry, I'm definitely going to save it for the future videos. But today's common question of the day comes from Brian the Dog Webb off of my Discord. He's the driver of Soldier Fortune, a huge friend of mine ever since I first started YouTube way back when. And his question is, what truck do you think should debut in Monster Jam from the indie scenes? And really, personally, I think, and what everybody else has thought, I'm sure, I would love to see Bigfoot compete in Monster Jam, and just to see what it would be like. I mean, of course, we would have loved to have seen Bigfoot race against Dennis and Tom when they were in the sport, and obviously that's not an option anymore given the retirement. But it would definitely be something interesting to see, and would bring some pretty cool diecast toys, I'm sure. I feel like it would bring more people to the sport to see an iconic truck as Bigfoot join the Monster Jam scene. So definitely my top choice would be Bigfoot to come to the indie scene. But let me know what you think. Let me know what truck you'd like to see in the from the indie scenes come to Monster Jam. And if you have a question, again, please be sure to comment down below. I'll be sure to include it in my video, in my next podcast, or in a future podcast, or maybe in a future Q&A video. I don't know, we'll see what happens, but be sure to comment your Q&A question for the next one. But again, don't forget to rate. Whether you're on Spotify, you have an option between a 5-star rating. On YouTube, you can just like it. So if you did enjoy it, please be sure to like. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be more content in the future, I promise. And again, more guests in the future, as well as more different topics we can speak on. So again, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to give me your feedback. It matters. It helps. I'm totally open to suggestions. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. And this is Project Rod, and I'll see you in the next one.